On this episode of Bite Sized, we are watching and discussing the 34th scene of the movie Twilight. For those of you watching along at home, that's from 44:23 to 45:54. And now, on to the episode. Hello and welcome back to Bite Sized. I say welcome back like you just listened to an episode. Maybe you did. I don't know.
Autoplay.
Hey, you haven't been introduced yet.
Sorry, I don't exist.
Keep
Bye.
it down. Hello, welcome to Bite Sized. If this is your first episode, here's what's going on. My name is Ben. I am your host. I am watching the Twilight movies one scene at a time with a new guest every week. That means I pick someone and send them anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 minutes of the movie Twilight, and then we talk about it with as little other context as possible. Joining me today, someone you've already heard, a Chicago improviser, Twitch streamer, and TTRPG content creator. You may know her from episode 1 of this very show. Sarah Murphy, welcome back to Bite Size.
Hi, I'm back. I'm allowed to talk now.
You are.
Yay!
Thank you for being my first repeat guest.
Oh my God, I'm honored to be here. This was so fun the first time.
How has your life changed since
oh my God,
being on Bite Size?
How's
What
my
did that
life
do for
change?
you?
Oh, being on Bite Size
Yeah.
changed everything for me.
I mean, you're engaged.
I'm engaged now.
That's something that happened since the last recording.
Because of the podcast.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take credit for
Yeah,
it.
100%. I
Yeah.
mean, my now fiance listened to this one episode of a podcast and was like, that's it.
I gotta lock it down.
Gotta lock it down.
You got to lock it down.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Neither of our engagements, because we both proposed, neither were Twilight themed. And you know what? That's my biggest regret.
Do it again,
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm going to get rid of the ring. I'm going to start this off from the beginning.
Get rid of the ring?
Well, so that I can then get it back. If I have to do this, if I have to do this again, or maybe I get 2 rings.
Yeah, well, when you say get rid of it, it sounds like you're just going to throw it in the trash.
No,
I
we
was
spent
gonna
too much
recommend
money to
giving
throw it away.
Giving it back to Megan and letting her try again.
Yeah, and then I'll go, one more time.
Yeah, it
From the
didn't-
top, one more time.
It didn't do the first time.
Yeah.
Try it again, and then you'll be actually engaged. I'm going to start the way I always start and ask you a
Yeah.
question you've already been asked before,
Yeah.
but let's go. Sarah Murphy, what is your history with the Twilight franchise?
Yeah, my history with the Twilight franchise is I read at least the first 2 books because I do remember being in the gym in high school and pedaling on a little sit-down bike and reading New Moon
Interesting.
while I was at the gym because I needed to pass the time. I remember also seeing like Eclipse in theaters with a friend, but we went mostly as a joke just to like laugh at it.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever like read or consumed Twilight genuinely. I think I read it just to be like, all right, what's everybody talking about? And look at how stupid this is.
Yeah.
And similar to the first time I was on the podcast, I have now come to accept the camp that it is.
Sure.
And I think it's great fun. And I would love to go to a midnight showing.
It definitely gives you a new appreciation for it.
Yeah.
Where, like, I feel like a lot of the criticisms levied at Twilight, sometimes fairly, sometimes unfairly, is that the characters are, I don't know, do weird things and talk in ways that people don't normally talk. And
Yeah.
that is true for the most part. But there are some times where they do that and it's easy to look at like them and think like, well, yeah, because they're high schoolers.
Yeah. High schoolers are stupid.
Right. And maybe in high school you took that very seriously.
Oh, absolutely.
But looking back at it now, you can see like, I don't know, when we are talking about New Moon in about a year and a half, I'll talk a lot about how, like, yeah, they're weird high school kids. And if you watch it through that lens of course they're weirdos, because weren't you also a weirdo at 16?
And in high school, everything is the most important thing you've ever done.
Right.
Because it is. This
Yes.
is like the peak of your life at that time.
If you look at it that way and watch it that way, their decisions and the things they do, I don't want to say make sense, but are a little easier to justify.
Well, yeah, looking through
Yeah.
the lens of a 16-year-old versus, well, yeah, I'm 29 now. Of
Right.
course I wouldn't do that shit. I have a frontal lobe.
And like anyone who looked at Twilight at that age and was like, man, that's ridiculous, probably didn't understand that they too were also ridiculous
Yeah.
in very much the same way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was ridiculous just without like the vampire boyfriend. What was my excuse?
Right. let's get into the scene we're talking about today.
Let's do it.
Our previous scene, they were at a restaurant, and now they
Okay.
are driving. They had just eaten dinner.
Okay, I was trying to figure out what happened just before this.
Yeah.
Because I have not seen like the full movie in a while.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, there's tension in the air. What the fuck happened?
You have to go listen to the last 2 or 3 episodes of the show to see what
Okay.
exactly was going on.
Okay.
But they just had dinner, and they're driving back to Forks from the big city.
Ooh.
And they pass the Forks police station and see a bunch of cars out there.
Yeah.
So they pull in because they both recognize their dad's cars, and they pull in and talk to Carlisle, and that's the end of the scene. So now let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Let's dive on into what we're talking about. They're in the car together and not really talking.
They're not.
No,
that's what
it's-
made me think there was like a fight before this because I'm like, you could cut the tension in that car with a knife.
It wasn't a fight so much as it was just a weird conversation where like, I don't know, I don't want to go on another rant about this like I did in the last episode, but it's a weird conversation where Edward is lying to Bella even though he knows she doesn't believe it, so he's not really trying to lie well, and then she's not believing him, and it's just weird, and it's not fun to watch, and I don't like it, and I don't like that they've had like 4 or 5 of those conversations in the first 40 minutes
Well,
of this
now
movie.
in this scene, no conversation.
No conversation. Bella says that she's warm enough now because I guess she was cold.
I guess she was, well, they're in Washington.
They are in Washington,
cold.
and I guess like yeah, I don't know.
I've never been to Washington. I can't vouch for them, but I don't know. Washington cold?
Washington cold, yes, but I have been to Forks once, and driving from Port Angeles where they had dinner to Forks takes a while, and so clearly
How
they're
long
like
is like an hour? Or
I recall it being like an hour and a half.
Okay.
I'm gonna look this up just to make sure I'm correct.
Yeah, might as well. I don't know anything about Washington geography. I'm an East Coast girly.
Sure. Okay, an hour and 6 minutes with
Okay.
current traffic.
Okay.
But like, if they're at the Forks police station, clearly they're like at the tail end of the drive.
Yeah.
And she's been in the car for around an hour.
Yeah.
That should be more than long enough to get warmed up, is all
Yeah.
I'm trying to say.
She's probably sweating in
Yeah.
there. She's like, how much longer can I not talk to this man and just let the sweat pour down my body
Yeah,
until
unless-
I reach a breaking point?
Unless they're doing that weird thing where they get in the car and it was cold, so they turn the heat on and it gets too hot, so they turn it off, and then it gets cold again, so
are
they
they
turn the heat back on
are they
again.
fighting over the dial one by one
I don't
in
know.
silence?
Maybe. It's possible. But they both reach for the AC at the same time.
Their fingers just graze.
Just barely
They
graze.
barely graze,
Just the
which is why
softest.
her reaction is so funny to me because she's like, I'm like, you barely touched him.
Right. And her reaction is to say that your hand is so cold.
Okay, I think I'm warm enough now. Your hand is so cold.
And then it cuts to a quick shot of his hand in case you forgot what hands are.
Well, yeah, of like, oh, that one.
It was
that
such
thing
a
there?
weird.
Oh, not the steer. That's a steering wheel.
Right.
Duh, that's the hand.
It's just like a quick like 1 or 2 second insert of his hand holding the steering wheel. And I really don't know why they needed to put that in there because we know what hands are.
You know, the runtime was just a second short, and they were like, fuck, where can we add one more shot in there that's not going to devolve the plot? And someone was like, well, I got this B-roll of hand.
I guess. I don't know. But like that had to have been on the shot list of
Yeah.
like things they needed to get that day of like, all right, and just hold the steering wheel for a second. Great. Thanks.
Grip it. You
Thanks,
can
Robert.
feel feelings.
Or whatever hand model they had stand
Oh,
in. That
do you think that's his real hand?
I know that it happens that most directors, if you don't need like the actor's face in there, it's not uncommon to use a stand-in for something small like that.
That makes sense.
So it's possible. If they were already in the car, they probably would have just, it's also something you can just get
Yeah.
very quickly. So I don't know that they would need to bring in a whole nother person. So I think it's probably him.
I would need a hand model because I bite my nails like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
And the camera does not need to see how bad these are. I
Oh,
need a
okay.
hand model.
That makes me wonder, can vampires bite their nails?
Well, why wouldn't they?
Well, because they don't grow back, do they?
Just
And
ba-
they're obviously very
Well, it's-
they're very tough.
It's made of the same stuff as nails are made of the same stuff as hair. Does vampire hair not grow?
Well, and that's a good question because vampire skin turns into like stone basically.
Yeah.
So then do their fingernails and then does their hair turn into stone? Because it moves like hair
Oh.
does.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with vampire fingernails?
I don't know.
And if you bite your fingernail, does it just stay like that forever?
Oh, then I'd be fucked.
yeah.
Just don't turn me into a vampire. My fingers will be nubs forever.
If you are gonna get vamped, make sure you get a good manicure first.
Just consider all the consequences.
Just like getting engaged, make sure you have a good manicure, you got a haircut,
Yes.
you're ready to be in all the pictures.
Vampirism and engagement are the same thing.
Don't say exactly when it's going to happen, but just give you some warning in
I want a
advance.
little heads up.
Right. Yeah, his fingers are cold, and he doesn't say anything
He does
to
not
that.
say anything. This man is silent.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like the most uncomfortable Uber ride I have ever watched.
Yeah, there is an easy out to that one because, like, I don't know, I've felt cold fingers on other people before. That's a perfectly normal thing that happens to fingers sometimes.
Oh, I have terrible circulation. My hands and feet are always freezing.
Mine are always warm, actually. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That I don't know why I was thinking about this recently, but that happened to me a couple times in high school where I was sitting next to someone and she was like, "Oh, my fingers are so cold." And I was like, "Oh, mine aren't." And then she's like, "Oh, they're so warm." And she like held my one hand with both of her hands. And at the time, I was just like, happy to help. But looking back on it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Something was happening
She
there.
liked you.
She was trying
She's
to
like,
make a move.
Oh, if only he would touch my hands.
Right. If I could, the number of times I've looked back on my, not even high school experience, but my high school through to the age of, let's say, 25, 26 experience, the numbers of times I was like, oh, she was expressing, oh, I see now.
Oh, I mean, when Megan finally like asked me out and said like, do you want to go on a date? I felt fucking blindsided and was like, oh my God, you like me?
Yeah.
What?
Because
Apparently
you two
she'd
met in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she apparently had been talking to friends for weeks about how nervous she was to like ask me
Really?
out. Like everybody else knew she had like a massive crush on me. And
Yeah.
I was like,
That was my one, like probably one of my favorite things about dating apps when I was still using those is that it removes a lot of that.
yeah.
Is that everyone's there for the same reason.
Yeah,
Right.
listen, I liked you. You like me. Like,
Right.
we're on the same page.
That's how this conversation started. Let's get past it.
Yeah, setting expectations, very important.
Yes, absolutely. They keep driving. It's weird and quiet until they see the police station and there's a bunch of cars out there. And I really don't want to do this, but we have to acknowledge that Kristen Stewart says a line,
I think I know exactly what line you were talking
and
about.
it's awful.
Because I took some notes on this scene.
Yeah.
Does it start with whoa?
It does start with whoa.
Whoa. What is going on?
Not what's going on,
What
like
is
an actual
going on?
teenager might say. Not like, she says what is going on as if, it's sort of like when you're writing a paper for school and they tell you not to use contractions. Like that's how she's speaking.
She had to hit a word count.
I guess. It is completely dry. There is like no inflection to it.
There is no sense of urgency.
It really sounds like they're recording her reading it for the first time, just going through her line.
yeah, just testing like, okay, so
And they were
what
just
what
like,
is going on? All right. Oh,
Cool.
you got it?
Thank you, Kristen.
Oh, but I didn't
All right,
do
moving
it.
on.
Oh, okay.
That's what it feels
That's
like.
100%.
As much as we love Kristen Stewart around here and really enjoy her performance as an actor, that just was not it.
No, it was a bad line read. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, Kristen.
Blame whoever it was on the other side of that recording booth
Yeah.
who didn't say, okay, Kristen, can we get another one?
Yeah, no.
Or try that again with a little different. Give me another one.
It was that audio engineer's first day, and they were
yeah.
too shy
Whoever
to say
was-
Kristen needed to do another
Whoever
one.
was directing that session was just like, all right, we got to move on.
Yeah, that was great, Miss Stewart.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
They didn't want to
That's
hurt
who
Kristen's ego.
No, she was great. She's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely the director's fault. She sees a bunch of cars out there outside the police station. By a bunch, I mean like two.
Yeah, there's only a few cars
Yeah.
there, but she's like, that one's my dad.
She says, my dad's still here. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to know how she can tell because there's a lot of cars there.
Yes, and aren't they mostly police cars?
Yeah, they're like all cop cars.
So how do you know which cop car is your dad's
Well,
cop car?
clearly
Does it have like a fun bumper sticker?
In the week or so that she's been in Forks, she's clearly memorized his license plate,
From
his car
afar.
number. I don't know.
She's squinting.
There's, to my eye, multiple identical police cars in there. I don't know. It makes no sense that she would be able to spot that. Aha, that's Charlie's car.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up after that is Edward, who says,
My dad's still here. Can you pull in?
It's my father's car in the end.
completely unnecessary.
This is something we talked about a little bit before the show, and I texted you about. The thing that excited me the most about this little clip is the amount of ADR in this one scene of like, I think K-Stew's line, ADR, I think that line, ADR. There are a number of other ones that are on screen ADR that I'm like, what happened?
The difference in audio quality between some of these lines that were clearly recorded in a booth and clearly recorded in that car or whatever. If you're not paying that much attention, you probably won't notice. But when you really listen to it, like, say, if you watch this 90 seconds over and over again for a podcast.
If you watch this a few times and pause and rewind and catch something you didn't notice the first 4 times you looked at this, like me, you'd never know.
It becomes very obvious that the first half of Edward's line sounds very clean, and the second half of that same sentence sounds weirdly a little fuzzier, like maybe he was in an actual car and not a soundproof booth.
Just vroom vroom.
It's my father's car in the end. What is he doing here?
He says that's my father's car in the end, completely unnecessary, because right after he finishes saying that,
his dad.
he just steps outside. And I feel like it almost takes away from the scene, because if he doesn't even say that's my dad's car and we just see him step out, we're like, whoa, Carlisle's also here? What's going on?
That feels more dramatic.
Yes, you don't need to like spoon feed it to us. You don't need to show us the bread trail to the breadcrumb trail to whatever is standing directly in front of us.
That is something Megan and I were just talking about because we saw Challengers last week.
Sure, a very good movie.
I don't know if Challengers is still super culturally relevant by the time this comes out. I don't know the turnaround time.
5 days.
Oh, okay, great. So it will still be very relevant. There is a big moment at the end of the movie that is a callback to something earlier. But Megan and I really appreciated.
I love that. If that's what I think it is, that I got like
I'm doing a hand gesture to you, so you know
no
what I'm
spoilers
talking
for
about.
anyone
No
who can
spoiler.
only
I don't
hear
want to spoil anything, but I want to make sure Ben and I are on the same page. We appreciated that they did not flash back to that moment to spoon feed to you, hey, that's what this means. Because Megan and I gasped in the theater when we were like, oh my God, they're doing the thing. Like, I love surprises like that. But when you spoon feed me like, that is my father's car, I'm like, yeah, I could have figured that out.
I love trying to predict surprises like that, because when I saw Challengers, the first time he does the thing we're talking about, I was like, oh, he's going to do that again.
Oh, I had no idea.
He's going to do that again to psych him out.
I was so in it and was like, look at these boys being silly.
And then it gets to the point, and I was like, do it, do it, do it. And then he did it, and I almost yelled in the movie theater.
Megan and I literally gasped.
Yeah.
Out loud, just and I hope our neighbors were not annoyed by us, but we were in it. Listen, I know this is a Twilight podcast, but please go see Challengers. It's a very good movie.
Look, we're going to run out of Twilight movies eventually. Maybe it'll become a Challengers one scene at a time.
Listen, one song at a time, because that soundtrack is banging.
Yeah, if you want to listen to a podcast about people talking about how good a movie is, then wait for this to become a Challengers podcast.
Listen, we'll see y'all in like 5-6 years.
Yeah. If I didn't have neighbors and other people in this building, I tried to yell "Come on" like Zendaya does, but I don't want to yell like that right now.
That must have felt so good.
Yeah.
To just let that out.
Sometimes I go for a walk around a park near where I live, and I'll see people playing tennis, and I just have to resist the urge to yell "Come on" every time I walk past them.
So good.
Anyway, Twilight. Carlisle's there.
They spoon feed everything
Yeah,
to you.
they
They
really-
assume you are very stupid.
They hit you over the head with the fact that Carlisle is there by pointing to his car and
going,
then showing him. And
Carlisle.
then Edward saying Carlisle as if we didn't see him 20 minutes ago.
This is such a dumb thought. If Carlisle was in the Cars universe, do you think his name would still be Carlisle?
There's a distinct possibility. Yeah, Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thoughts with Sarah.
Yeah, that's
The ADHD's flowing today.
thoughts with Sarah. Carlisle steps out of the police station and tells Edward and Bella,
Wayland Forge was found in a boat out near his place. I just examined the body.
Wayland Forge, a character that has appeared twice in this movie before.
Well, and because of ADR and a line that's coming up in a second, in case you forgot who Wayland was, they have Carlisle ADR say, Wayland was your father's friend.
Yeah.
Bella, you should go inside. Wayland was your father's friend.
Okay.
In case you've forgotten in the last hour.
Yes, because he is named once. So he's in two scenes of this movie. His first appearance is in, I don't remember, it's when they're getting dinner at the diner. I believe this would have been somewhere around episode 10 or 12 of this show. And then we're told his name, and then we see him again in a scene that comes somewhere around episode 27, where he gets killed on the boat that they're talking about right now.
Rip.
And that kind of makes sense that because he's shown twice and you hear his name exactly once,
that's
that
fair.
they kind of have to be like,
So good ADR.
this guy. Yeah, in this case, the exposition is helpful.
Yeah.
I think.
Something that I noticed watching this scene, because again, I could watch the same minute and a half over and over again, is that this little conversation with Carlisle and Bella and Edward has a number of ADR things that made me pause and go, those lips do not match what they are saying. And at one point, Bella says something and her lips do not move. I think she just goes, okay. And if you watch, her lips do not move.
See,
her mouth is just open.
I'm going to challenge you on this one.
Challenge me on this, Challenger.
I'm going to be a challenger.
Challenger.
Come on.
Come on. Are you an Art or a Patrick?
Which one is which?
Art is the
Well, I'm not-
blonde. Patrick is the brunette.
Oh,
I'm an Art. I know
I
it.
like to. I hope I'm a Patrick.
I'm an Art.
I think I'm more of a Patrick.
I'm a pathetic little white boy.
You're a little sellout.
I am a little sellout.
Yeah.
And I just love my wife.
I sleep in cars and only eat bananas.
Yummy, yummy.
I only eat the most phallic looking foods I can get my hands
Churros,
on. Bananas.
Go see
Yeah.
Challengers.
It is possible. I did a little test right after you brought this to my attention. It's possible to say okay without moving your lips. As much as she does, you can just be like, okay.
I would like to review the footage. I don't think
right.
her lips move at all.
But I'm saying we can watch this, and then I will show you, Sarah Murphy. It is possible for me to say the same word that she did, moving my lips as much as she did.
Bella, you should go inside. Wayland was your father's friend.
Okay.
Her lips do not move at all. Look at that again.
I need you to watch my mouth.
Okay.
Okay.
No, her lips do not move at all. Look at. I'm willing to die on this hill. Look at her lips. They do not move a fraction of an inch.
Okay.
Her lips do not move.
All right, you might be right.
Because especially there's like an inhale, exhale, and her lips do not move.
Upon further review, her face does not move at all. She just goes, okay. And like I'm trying to replicate it, and you know what? I think you may be right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Believe women.
Okay, fine, I will. Jeez.
There's also another point, and I might again be overlooking this. The reason this is so interesting to me is I just watched a very good video essay by this YouTube channel, Nando V Movies.
It's about James Somerton.
No, it is about about Madam Web.
Okay.
Did you see Madam Web at all?
I started it earlier today and then stopped it because I wasn't paying attention.
Okay, so Megan and I saw it over Valentine's Day weekend because we knew it was going to be a shit show, and we love bad movies. That movie is almost entirely ADR.
Interesting.
So much of the main villain is ADR. It is so obviously
Yeah.
ADR, that it's become a joke at this point. And watching this YouTuber, Nando V Movies, talk about trying to piece together what he thought the plot was based on what is said off screen, meaning, okay, this is a change and something they needed to add to the movie to like give plot and context.
Yeah.
Figuring out through ADR what was the original plot of this movie and lining up like, hey, your lips don't match what you are saying. This is bad ADR. So it's been very on the brain recently. So when there's something Carlisle says that ends in like a CK sound, but his lips close. And I'm like,
Interesting.
those don't match.
Yeah.
So you said something. What did you say?
I don't know.
What did you say, sir?
I mean, it's possible that they weren't recording audio at all. Like they did this on
Yeah.
purpose, and they just weren't. They only recorded video, and then audio later tried to
Yeah.
just match it up as best they could, and this is what they got.
But I was just surprised for the 1.5-minute clip to be like, oh, that's ADR, and that's ADR, and that's ADR,
Yeah.
and that's ADR. I was just like, okay, look at you, Twilight.
Yeah.
Wayland Forge was found in a boat out near his place. I just examined the body.
He died? How?
Animal attack.
Where is the medical examiner?
He is.
Is he a medical examiner?
He's a doctor.
Are doctors the same as medical examiners?
It can be.
Well, is he licensed to do an autopsy?
It depends on your jurisdiction.
I don't know doctors' jurisdictions.
It changes
I'm
from
just wondering.
look, the way a coroner is appointed or elected or whatever
Isn't
changes
that so
wildly.
Weird? Aren't coroners elected
Sometimes,
in many places?
in some places,
which I think is so weird.
but in some places like Forks, where maybe you don't have a ton of doctors to go around, sure, just bring out Carlisle, who's probably available at weird hours because he doesn't sleep because he's a
he
vampire.
don't sleep. Okay.
I would be shocked if the town of Forks had its own dedicated coroner. There's probably a guy for like the county.
That's fair. That's
but
fair.
if you want someone a little quicker, just call someone from the hospital and they can come do the same thing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I was just like, that is weird. I feel like this is somebody else's job, but for plot convenience, it's Carlisle. But I was wondering, like, who is there a special license to be a medical examiner, a coroner, or is that just like wrapped in, hey, you're a doctor, you get bodies?
It depends on your local laws.
Okay.
That's really all
Well,
there is to
everybody
it.
vote in your local elections.
Yeah.
Okay. Elect
Check-
your coroners.
And run for coroner if you feel like
Yeah,
it.
if you-
Because in some places, I imagine all you got to do is be elected. So, hey, you could be a coroner.
You could.
Depending on where you live.
Hey, believe in yourself and you too can be a coroner.
Just mess around with those dead bodies.
But not too much.
No.
No, not in like a weird way. Just like a fun Sunday afternoon.
I'm going to break one of my rules here, and I'm going to talk about something that has not happened yet.
Okay. Yeah, talk about it.
Because in the later on in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
the next time we see the vampires that kill Waylon, one of them is wearing Waylon's shirt,
Okay.
and one of them is wearing his jacket.
Okay.
They took those and then killed him. Mm-hmm. And this is sort of a known fun fact around Twilight. But what I've never put together is that means whenever the police came to get his dead body, he would have been topless. He would have, because they took his shirt and jacket.
Slay.
Which means they found in this cold, cold weather a man wearing nothing from the waist up. Mm-hmm. And the story they're going with is it's an animal. And at no point did any of them ever say, hey, is it weird that he was not wearing a shirt?
Is it weird that there are no scraps of fabric?
Yes.
Anywhere near
not
this
even
man.
signs of a shirt.
Well-
which can only mean two things. Number one, Carlisle just very quickly said, must have been an animal, and no one was
They're
smart
like,
enough to question
he's a doctor.
it. Yeah.
He know things.
Or the alternative, which is maybe the more plausible of the two theories, that Waylon was found without a shirt on in the cold, and everyone knows Waylon was just like, yep, that's what he would do.
That's Waylon.
That's Waylon for
He's
you.
always getting drunk and taking his shirt off.
Working on his boat in 30-degree weather without
Yeah.
a shirt
Well,
on.
that's, Waylon's just, he's a kooky guy.
Yeah.
He just marches at the beat of his own drum.
Maybe ask a question about
Yeah.
why the guy from the animal attack was not wearing half his clothes. I feel like that should be a sign to the cops that there's more going on here than a mountain lion.
Probably, but I assume the cops are just like, yeah, I trust the doctor here. I know about detectiving. I don't know about
Yeah.
bodies.
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh, I think it's stupid, and I think there would be more questions to be asked of. I'm sorry. So, like, what kind of animal? What
Yeah.
do you mean?
Right.
Are there scratch marks on him, or are there just 2 convenient puncture wounds in
Right.
his neck?
Is he like missing body? Was he torn apart?
Yeah. Is
Yeah. It's weird.
These are the hard questions that Forks isn't asking.
No.
What are they hiding from you?
Twilight refuses to answer.
Twilight, answer.
Carlisle tells Bella she should probably go inside, and I disagree. She probably shouldn't because it seems like there's important police activity
she
going on
is
in
a
there.
teenage girl.
There's a dead body in there.
Yeah.
Hopefully
like,
not just like out in the open, but like maybe don't just let her wander in.
Don't just let a teen girl just wander into essentially a crime scene adjacent room.
Right. To comfort her father,
What is
her adult dad.
Also, yeah, he is a grown-ass adult.
Right. He
It is
takes care of her.
He takes care of her. It is not her job to comfort him.
And we're going to spend the next 30 minutes of this podcast talking about emotional labor.
Yeah.
No, we're not. But
okay.
anyway, Carlisle should not have told her to go inside.
No, Carlisle, you should go do that.
Right. You should say go home.
Like, you're not going to bed anytime soon. You go hang out with
Especially
him.
because there's not an animal, but at least one rogue vampire out on the loose.
Carlisle. Listen, this is like your cousin did this, all right?
This is all around pretty irresponsible of you.
Yeah. Carlisle just putting the blame on other people. Oh, it's a bear. Oh, you go deal with it. Carlisle, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's a good question.
What honest work are you doing, Carlisle?
Not a lot. All right, let's start to wrap this up. Sarah Murphy, if you had to give the scene a name, what would it be? And this is going to be the name of the episode, so make it good. And you've answered this question before, so you better make it extra good.
I just put my hand over my mouth.
Yeah.
I fully
Did you
forgot.
forgot?
I fully forgot
You
that
forgot.
this is. Oh my god.
All right, well, what's the name of this scene?
Okay.
All right.
ADR. Already dead. Really?
Already dead? Question mark. Real? 2 question marks in there?
Yeah, 2 question marks.
Okay. ADR already dead.
Really?
Really. Which is more shock and surprise than anyone in this scene actually shows.
Well, I'm showing the emotion that they should have had.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, of, hey, somebody's dead.
Yeah.
Like, how many people do you see in your day? How many news stories do you hear of people just getting mauled by an animal?
There's also, again, I don't want to get too far ahead of my own show, but the next scene implies that she sees his body when she's in there.
Oh my God. Come on.
But we'll talk about that next time on Bite Sized. Until then, Sarah Murphy, if people want to find out more about you and see the things that you do and maybe hear you talk more about challengers, depending on what kind of mood you're in.
Yes.
Where can they do such things?
You can find me on all the social medias at Oops All Smurf. Smurf spelled SMURPH.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Twitch. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. Those are the main places I am. I love playing video games. I love making TTRPG content.
Yeah.
Love writing silly tabletop games. And I love hanging out with my friend Ben. This
All
has
right.
been so fun.
Well, you can do most of those things on social media, but if you want to hang out with me,
You can't.
yeah.
He's my friend.
Please-
You got to go through me.
Yeah, you do have to go through Sarah. If you want to follow the show on social media, you can do so at bitesizedpod_ on Instagram and TikTok and also YouTube. If you want to communicate with the show in any way, you can send a direct message to those places or send an email to myfavoritetwilightpodcast.com. A good email address that's easy to remember. If you want to find all of the links and all of the information about the show in one convenient location, you can now go to the show's website. You can go to twilightpodcast.com.
I'm going to twilightpodcast.com.
A good generic URL. If you want to see Squarespace website that I put together in about 30 minutes.
Wait, you mean that nobody else took the URL twilightpodcast.com?
The domain name www.twilight.com was shockingly available.
Wait, twilight.com?
Twilight
was
Podcast.
Oh, Twilight Podcast.
I
was
may
like,
have misspoke. But yeah, twilightpodcast.com. I got there first. And it was cheap, so clearly no one thought it was going to be a big deal.
hey, but you know what? You're going to hit it big.
I know. It was like less than $20 for a year.
Less than 20
for a
bucks?
.com? That's great.
Oh my God.
I know.
Oh, I'm on this website now. Look at how good this website
Anyway, that's where you
looks.
can find links to all my social media and all the episodes and see screenshotted reviews that people have left for the show. Yeah, I'm trying to make the show more marketable. Whatever.
You're doing so good.
Thanks. I'm working on it.
Give it up for Ben in your own private home, car, wherever you are. Give it up for Ben.
Thank you. So you can do all those things there that I talked about. Thank you so much to my editor, Ben Oxter, for putting the shows together. Thank you to the band Swimwear Department for letting me use their song Mauled to Death as our theme. Kellen Lutz, if you're listening, hit me up. I want you on this show. That is it. That is all the time we have for today. As we say at the end of every episode,
Already dead. Womp womp.
already dead. Womp womp. See you next time.
Bye.
Whoa. What is going on?